Welcome everybody to Hidden Assets. Now, if you're familiar with the channel, welcome back. We're glad to have you. You've seen us doing all sorts of wacky things with card ranking videos, content such as strategy guides and tournaments. And today we have a special announcement, and for that, CJ, turn to my partner in crime, the ineffable, the unflappable, the Black Shadow.
Ineffable? Wow, I'm
Yeah.
impressed. Good evening, everyone. I am super proud to announce to you all the next Dune Imperium tournament, the Golden Path Internationals. This will be our third tournament being played by our tabletop simulator, and the second being run by myself. Those of you folks will be aware, we had the Imperium Cup that was over the summer. It was a huge effort for all parties involved, including myself and my colleague here, definitely.
Mhm.
But it was super, super successful, and I've had many questions about when the next one would be. So here we are.
Yeah.
There is a link to the sign up form, I'm sure, in the description below, as well as on the tourney thread that will be up on the TTS Club Discord, which is also linked. Sign-ups for the tournament will last until December the 4th, with a live draw being done in the evening of the 5th. Entries received afterwards will be held for reserves minimum, depending on the uptake of players and if there's open slots available into the tournament. So, for those of you familiar with the Cup that we did back over the summer, this will follow a similar format with an initial group stage, so that everyone who participates will have a minimum of 4 guaranteed games in the tournament. This will be followed by the freshly patented wildcards, which is a second chance round of 3-player games, and then the knockouts to the grand final, where the champion will be taking home a pretty solid $350 over a total $800 total prize pool. A huge thanks to Unfussable, who has sponsored this, but we are definitely very happy. If anyone else would like to contribute to the tournament, please get in contact with me. I'll be happy to help, and hopefully we can make this the biggest Dune tourney that's ever been held in the world. Now, speaking of size, the Cup hugely overshot what I was expecting for entries, and it did mean expand the tourney. Getting about 40% more players than you expect does that, but it was a good problem to have, and I wasn't complaining by the end of it. But it did make estimating player pool for this one a bit tricky. So I've set the bar for this at 120 entries for this tourney, which on the face of it sounds like a lot, I agree. But I and several others I've spoken to reckon that we might even exceed this number, which is pretty insane for only the third tournament that we've ever hosted. And I'd be unbelievably impressed if we do make that, but I think it's totally, totally doable. If we do make that number, extra entries will be held for backup slots, which turn up in pretty much every tournament of anything ever. And if we don't make that many, I've already got plans to adjust the groups as necessary and make everything work nice and smoothly. I and a couple others, we did experiment with making the groups larger than just 8 players each, but the maths doesn't quite work out. Some people just don't end up playing other players. If you're only playing a maximum of 4 games, the only way to do that is to make the groups just physically longer. And I didn't really want to do this tournament, especially as we're going into the Christmas period. I'm aware of, obviously, that will impact certain people's abilities to play for a week or so. So figured it was best to leave that on the side.
Well, that does sound pretty amazing, and I'm glad that you're keeping it to 8 players. Actually, that's a good choice. What changes are you guys making? Were you making to the ensure this tournament is even better and bigger and grander than the Imperium Cup?
Yes, we did amazingly well over the summer, like far better than I could have ever expected. But there was a couple of things that didn't quite work right, as is going to be the case. So there's 2 areas that I wanted to address. The first is that we did have some scheduling issues in the Cup due to different time zones for players in amongst the groups, and it made trying to organize some games very, very difficult, and it took definitely a fair amount of work on my side to get everything up and running and everyone working as best we can. This was unfortunate and a teething issue for a competition, that rapidly accelerated in size from what I was expecting. So to address this, when you sign up, there'll be a spot for you to put in what time zone that you reside in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this info and put players into 3 or 4 pots that are going to cover a range of these zones. we'll use these pots when we're doing the draw to create the groups, so that there will still be some randomness to who you get grouped with for your matches, which I think is still very important for any tournament's integrity, not just doing Imperium, but I think any competition. I think that's a vital component of that. Even if it is a little extra work for me to do in the build up to it, I think it's totally worth it. The second main change, and the one I think I'm quite excited for actually, is that this tourney will be implementing the hidden picks leader selection method that I'm sure many of you have seen either on the mod that was made by Murphy's Law, videos perhaps on this channel. Several Orski's recent streams have also featured this. And Junior Imperium is one of those nice games in a way that because there's no set rules for how to do leader selection, we as a community do have some license to try different things. And from my experience, I've really enjoyed the hidden picks leader system. If you are unaware of what it is, I'll quickly explain. The idea is that players will still pick their leaders from 4th spot going to 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. But now 6 of the 14 leaders are randomly removed, and then of the remaining 8 leaders, they are picked in secret until everyone chooses a leader, at which point everyone then goes face up. It's all completely hidden. It had been questioned by several folks that in Rise of X, the 4th player position is possibly the weakest in X, and the data we've collected and presented on this channel suggests that might well be the case. So by using this system, the 4th player is the only person who has complete information on what leaders are actually available in the first place, and it also protects them somewhat from being counterpicked, like an ECAS being picked after a Helena, for example, because they don't know if it's in the game, they may not choose to pursue that, they might be, there's lots of stuff going on. On the other side of things, I just think it's more enjoyable to pick this way. I think it makes players have to think more about who they're selecting, why they're choosing them, and on a statistical side of things, I'm actually really interested to see if this one change makes a difference to win rates for each seat. It might well be that we do a tourney of this and reckon, hey, this is actually better than the backwards open selection we've been doing since, since the start of kind of doing this channel. And we have that freedom to try different methods, and I think this is a perfect spot for us, and a perfect reason as well for us to go for this and give it a spin. And I honestly believe overall people will like the change, and it just gives a bit of a different flavor to the tournament than at the Imperium Cup.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm personally a huge fan of hidden picks, as I've said many times on this channel. But there's one question that is probably on people's minds here, and we probably should address that. Why is this tournament not featuring Immortality, the brand new expansion that just is getting into players' hands as we speak?
Yes. So I thoroughly expect this to come up in the comments and in questions to me, so I'll just answer it right here. From what I've personally tested and tried, and from opinions of folks that have had a chance to try Immortality as well, I've actually really liked it. And I think overall the direction Immortality is taking, minus a couple of things that maybe don't work quite amazingly, but I think on the whole definitely is a good direction for the game to go, and I think is going to be very popular. However, at this moment in time, on November 23rd, 2022, not many people have even had a chance to really see the expansion. It's why I did the video on the channel very recently, giving the details on Immortality, and I made a lot of effort to cater to folks who don't know the expansion yet. I wanted to spend some time to explain the rules before going to all this advanced theory. And that's not even including people that haven't even had a chance to play it themselves. So I don't think it's right to host a proper tournament of Immortality just yet. We're still understanding the rules. We're still working out how certain cards work. We've got the grafting system. I won't even get into the Gola and Talaxin Master debates here. It's not necessary. But we're getting comfortable with the game. And it's, there's a lot of new concepts and mechanics. So I don't think we should do one just yet for Immortality. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't do one soon, and when this tournament concludes in March, by then we should be in a good spot to explore that possibility. But I also didn't want to wait around for 3 months when a lot of folks have asked me, when's the next tournament? We really enjoyed the last one. We want to do another one. And given how well the Cup did, it felt just foolish just to leave this hanging. So I hope you do understand my reasoning for holding off this for the time being. We just need a little bit extra time to know how we want to proceed on that.
Yeah, and I am 100% behind this choice too. I think that Immortality is really interesting and fun. There's so much stuff going on in it. As far as a tournament, it's just not fair to ask people to participate in a tournament of a game that they may have only played once or twice, and that gives a favorable, outcome most likely to those players who have been able to jam some games on the beta. So I feel like that is a good choice. And but otherwise, is there anything else you wanted to add about the tournament and tell the listeners?
Yeah, so what I would say to you guys is that I don't just make these tournaments for like hardcore Doom players, although I readily accept they do exist. I've always believed, and I still do believe, that the focus on these events should be on getting new players into the game, and the Imperium Cup did a super job of that. It's why we have the group system, so that if you've watched the videos, but it's the first game of Imperium that you would have ever have played, you don't have to be worried or put off that you'll play, kind of getting used to stuff, play against some good players, you'll lose and be out. That's not really particularly enticing. Yes, these events do feature some of the best players in the world. There's no doubt about that. But rather than be scared of that, use the games as a chance to learn the game. To experience what Dune Imperium is all about, get a feel for the lore if you're not familiar with it, like I was when I first tried, and just see what is truly possible about this awesome, awesome game that we have. If you're not all that sure, I would encourage you to give it a spin. As I say, the format is pretty generous. Everyone gets 4 games guaranteed. There is no taking that back at all. That's 100% guaranteed. And over half the players in the groups advance at least into the wildcards anyway. So it's a fairly generous format for progression. And by going by some of the games that we got to see in the Cup, some of the games that me and CJ and others we got to cast over the course of the last tournament, there was some ridiculous matches.
Yeah.
I will point to the very first game of the tournament, which I know CJ maybe doesn't want to remember sometimes, but the very first game we had a 4-way tie that was decided by Chow Merkin Spies. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. So it's an experience that you don't want to miss out on. And if you've enjoyed watching the content, this is a great opportunity to actually become a part of that as well. And hey, if you like the game and you get a good run in, and winning hundreds of dollars for playing board games seems like a pretty good way to spend an afternoon to me.
Yeah, I want to echo what you said here is that when I started doing this channel about Dune Imperium, I didn't do it for the hardcore like tournament players. That wasn't my goal. I really appreciate and good friends with the tournament players, and I love this community. But the goal here is to bring you really awesome content and to have fun with this great game. So, yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. And the link below will be to sign up. You'll find all the information below in the description. And we look forward to seeing you in the Golden Path Internationals.